Mm-hmm.
Now,
mm-hmm.
now, electric all down the coast comes from Canada. Why the fuck is ours going to go up and no one else's? I can tell you why. Because they want all the people that can't afford that bill to move the fuck out and have nothing but high-class assholes smoking a big brown dick up here in New York. They're controlling. They're centralizing. They're putting gates around things and saying the wealthy people can be in New York, all the assholes can be down south.
Mm. That's interesting. I didn't realize that was happening up there. You know, but yeah, I could see that. They might want to try to creep people out up there, you know, chase them the hell out of there. But I didn't realize they were trying to scare everybody with no money out of upstate New York and scare them down south. I didn't know all that was going on.
Yeah,
but
it's going.
Wow, a lot of politicking going on up there. But yeah, there's a lot of poor people down here, down south. But anyway, to the experiment. But, you know,
I just use it to find my granddaughter. This summer she was out in the river and I was on the banks and she was on the other side with a bunch of other kids. So I just glared at the back of her head. So about 30 seconds or so later, she turns around and looks straight at me. So it's like, come on, time to go.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, my gosh. Nobody was afraid of me. I was like the fun mom. Everybody loved coming over to our house. The only thing that got them, the only thing that got them the hell out was that I never had any good junk food because I always was the mom that had, like, you know, the blue chips and, you know, healthy, you know, the green juice in the fridge. Yeah, there were no good snacks in my house.
I had the sodas and I had the cardboard pizza for the kids. That way I got to know them.
Yeah.
But it was the girlfriends. The girlfriends, my youngest son, always told the girls that I hated them, so they're all terrified of me. So I could just kind of glare and everybody would run.
That's great. Oh, I should have worked on that harder. I should have tried to develop that glare. That's great. I bet they're all afraid of Jay. I bet some of your daughter's friends are afraid of you. You're a big guy. If you come out with a glare, I bet everybody knows when it's time to go home.
Well, I do have a glare, and I do purposely do things to try to piss off my kids' friends. Don't get me wrong, but after a while of them coming in, they actually get to know me and figure out that 90% of the time I'm just a typical old everyday jackass. And I'm just going to purposely fuck with you because why? It's entertaining.
Oh, yeah, because you're a fun guy like that. I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, I can give you a prime example. My kids, my oldest one is now 15. She's starting to bring home, you know, guy friends, so forth and on.
Yeah.
It's accepted that, you know, those sexual desires are initially there. So if you bring over one guy friend, and they wanted to have dinner, and me, I got to be the dude that says, don't touch the fucking kid. Don't do it. I was a teenage boy. I know what's going on in your head. So I got to figure out, basically, I have to figure out how to strike fear in them and still be a jackass. So I look at him and I say, so, tell me, you have any pubic hairs yet? And it basically just lightens the mood. I asked one kid if he was a chronic masturbator. He didn't come around much more, but, you know, it is what it is.
Oh, no, you're bad.
But, you know, after they come around a few times and they actually hang out with me, they realize that I'm just a jackass. Bad line.
So all I do is I walk behind her. She's 14 and looks like she's about 17, 18 easily. And when the adult people look at her, or these 18, 19-year-olds, and I walk behind her and they're giving her that look, I turn around and go, hey, she's only 14. or, hey,
I did the same.
12. And she'd go, Grandma.
That's it. I did the same thing. My daughter always looked like she was 20, and she was like 14 and 5'10", you know, and I had to do the same thing. But oh yeah, I hate that. But
right. I think I told one boy this summer we were down in Galveston, and I told him I was the grandmother standing there looking at him with my shotgun behind my back. We were out on the strand, and they'd asked if they could get a picture with her, and I'm like,
That's great.
She just rolls her eyes at me.
All good.
It is. Well, the next story that we have tonight to move on to is also from Smithsonian.com, and this is about parallel universes. I'm really into this, actually. What if there are parallel universes jostling ours? Could explain a lot of weird quantum physics. You guys believe in parallel universes?
Absolutely.
I do.
Possible, yeah.
Okay. Oh, good, me too. Because I really do, and I always have, and it's something that, you know, I've read about for many years and studied about for many years, and always had an interest in. So that's why I thought this was a pretty cool article, and it just says, you know, of course, you know, physics theories can get pretty hairy, but if our universe isn't the only one, you know, if in fact there are an infinite number of universes out there, which there could be, then in at least one of them, you are a brilliant theoretical physicist that kind of gets this stuff. The idea of a multi-universe, multiverse comes up in a number of different physics theories. For example, if space-time stretches to infinity, then at some point it actually starts repeating itself. So Claire Moskowitz wrote for Space.com, if you look far enough, you would encounter a completely different version of you. In fact, infinite versions of yourself. So another idea was that parallel universes might be just beyond our own in, you know, just a different dimension, which personally I also believe. So all this may be comforting, you know, endless possibilities, you know, or uninspiring. You know, what's the point if these other selves are so far away or completely hidden? But a new theory posits that other universes may not be so separate from our own at all. So quantum physicist Howard Wiseman and his colleagues just proposed a new sort of many interacting worlds theory. And their theory helps explain that some of the very weird, physics we can observe at the quantum level. And they're saying, you know, it might be explained by another universe or world interacting with our own. But Wiseman and his colleagues calculated how many multiple worlds interacting could explain well-known phenomena, including, you know, the tunneling effect and something called what they call the double slit experiment, that shows that light can behave like a particle or a wave. But anyway, the theory is new. Many more calculations will be needed to try and test it out or figure out what it really means for us. But the idea in itself is definitely intriguing. And, in their theory, they're saying that all these other worlds are as real as our world, and that they've all been around since the beginning of time. And the only mystery is what particular world we actually occupy. And they're actually claiming that in a way all of these different worlds sort of interact. Anyway, it's weird, right? It's a weird theory. It's an interesting theory. I don't know, how we all sort of coexist at the same time, but they're saying that really one way is that one way to think about it is that these other worlds are mostly invisible because they only interact with ours under very strict conditions and only in very minute ways.
Well, whoever said it was kind of a new theory must have never watched Fringe on TV.
Right? I love that show. I love
Yeah,
that.
because that's what that show was all about.
It was. It absolutely was. Right. So, I guess they're trying to look at it a different way or do different experiments about it. Yeah. But, Fringe was totally all about. Did you watch Fringe, Jason? I loved that show. That was awesome.
Fringe?
Yeah, Fringe.
Oh, Fringe? I did not see Fringe.
Oh my gosh, you should watch that. If you can catch that, it was really a great show, and it was completely all about this, and really well done. But they're saying it's almost like little ghost universes, within each other, just in just with minutia particles, interacting, and you just sort of, don't see it or don't realize it. So it's sort of a bizarre quantum, effect principle.
It is, because if you get into all the physics theories and everything, and you really understand all the particles, everything that seems solid to us, if you can really see it as it really is, it's not solid. It just appears solid to us. That TV looks solid, we look solid, but we're really not.
Right. And exactly, and that's how they showed it on Fringe as well. That was a wild show. That show was actually wild.
There's a study back in the summer that they say that during our conscious sleep, when we're in a deep, deep sleep, that our conscious mind's bouncing in and out of different universes, which is kind of cool if you think about it. You could be, something totally different in some other paradox. You could be a male or you could be a female. You could be anything, and you wouldn't even know.
Or you could be the same versions, or be yourself in many different versions, and maybe that would explain why when you wake up, sometimes you wake up really ticked off at somebody. Right. In that other parallel universe or whatever, whatever you want to call it, and you were mad at them there.
Maybe that could explain deja vu, why people get deja vu.
Oh, I had it the other day, big time.
God, I haven't had that happen in a while, but yeah, I mean, to that effect too. Like maybe that's why people say, "Oh, I got out on the wrong side of the bed," or you woke up and you were already having a bad day. Something happened to you in a parallel universe. Possible, or even it could also sort of explain the astral travel effect.
Right. Right. I was on the phone with somebody the other day, and I was going to start telling her what she was saying because all of a sudden it hit me. We had that conversation already.
How weird.
It had been a while since I'd had that deja vu, but it was just really weird. It always is.
It is always weird. I haven't had that happen in a long time, but when it does happen, especially with a conversation like that where you just know exactly what they're going to say and what you're going to say, and it's like you were just right there. That is the weirdest feeling. It really is.
It is. Probably my weirdest was when I was a teenager. My folks always watched Johnny Carson, and of course I was in bed. And even when I got older, I just never watched Johnny Carson. And I was up for some reason, and Johnny Carson was recorded like the day before it would air. And so it was never live back then. And
right.
I was in there, Johnny Carson was on, and I knew the entire show. Everything everybody was going to say, what was going to happen for the whole show. Yeah, that was really weird.
That is really weird, especially for something like that.
Yeah, it's something I've never watched. It's like I was there the night before when they were taping it. Why, I don't know. I don't think I ever got over that one.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That is crazy. So anyway, a little, some more provocative news articles tonight than some of my usual stories. And anyway, it's almost about tonight is Miss Martha Hazard Decker, and she is an author and also paranormal profiler. And it's her second time with us here on Ghost Chat Radio. So, where are you from, Martha? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, right now I'm living in Texas, and I've been here since I was 19. I live in Dallas, and I live southeast of Dallas now, but not that far away. I was born in Michigan, grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, lived outside New Orleans for a while. So, I get around.
Oh, you do get around. You do, for sure. And those are really dissimilar places for sure, too. What part where are you at in Texas?
I'm southeast of Dallas. About an hour southeast of there.
Nice, way over there.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what you do. Are you spending more time these days? Are you working on a book currently?
I'm working on a book currently. I just have to finish putting it together and filling in any blanks. I'm working on it. Then another friend of mine did a lot of the research for it. Her name is Nancy Davis, and she's also part of our East Texas Paranormal team. The book is called Historical and Haunted U.S. 80, or U.S. Highway 80. Anyway, Highway 80 goes from the East Coast to the West Coast.
Okay.
And like Route 66, and we were actually doing a story about an East Texas town, and then I was going to fill it, and it's on Highway 80, and I was going to do a little filler with stories from the towns nearby, and I couldn't get enough from this town as far as back in the 1800s and everything that I was looking for. So we decided to do one on Highway 80, and the haunted part, the historical, wives' tales, urban legends, mysteries, unsolved crimes, just a little bit of whatever in it, and then it grew from there to where the first book is, and I'm still looking for stories from people. Somebody knows anything, but the first book is going to cover from Dallas to Louisiana on Highway 80. And then a little bit later, there'll be another book, which will be Fort Worth and New Mexico on Highway 80. But during the process, we discovered that Highway 80 has just quite as big a following as Route 66, and I had no idea.
Oh, okay.
That was, they just totally surprised us, so we just started working on things, finding, communities that aren't around anymore. We've got, let's see, one of the things, places that is going to be featured in the book, listed in the book when we do the part on Marshall, Texas. We're going to have Dr. Rita Louise's house in the book, the house she just bought, because it's off of Highway 80. And there's a hotel in Mineola that I haven't talked to the new owners of it a lot, but it's haunted and it's historical. And we're going to go in, and I'm going to need to get a few more pictures of that place. We're going to do some stuff with that. So anything like that along the highway, eventually I'll probably do an East Coast and a West Coast version so we can get the whole highway.
Very cool.
Right now we're just working on from Dallas to Louisiana.
Okay, well, I'm down in Baton Rouge, so when you get down this way, let me know.
I will. Hopefully that book will be done in the next few months, and it'll be out, sometime after the first of the year, because we're just kind of wrapping it up now. And since we're wrapping it up, we're starting on a YouTube series, a video series that we're going to launch after the first of the year too.
Oh, that's neat. A lot of people are working on, I'm finding, YouTube series and new, sort of webisodes, and which is really cool because I think that people are really tuned into that now, and they really are.
It's one of those things that you just go do it.
I think it's great. And so have you done anything like that before on YouTube?
Not on YouTube. I have some silly stuff kind of on YouTube, but I have done the stuff on TV. When I lived in Dallas area back in the 80s, I started doing, so I did several TV shows. And,
what did you do, Martha? What were you on?
I did. I produced and directed and edited several of them. Back when public access came around, and everybody would have your public access channel, I did some things, start out like anybody else with some weird stuff. But but I did like one of the first talk shows. I was the talk show host. Then I was the producer, editor, and we did one on I did one on car seats where I went out to the store and filmed different car seats, how to put them in cars, and that was before a lot of states had the laws where you had to use car seats for kids. I had a doctor on the show. I just did the whole everything like that.
That's really neat.
Probably the coolest thing I did is I was the very first person in Dallas to take out with that band they called the Cube Band, which is really a remote band for doing your live feed. I took that out. I had a crew of 12, and we had 3 cameras, and we spent like all day filming at a place that's called Dallas Palace, and it was Ray Wiley Hubbard. And I don't know, he still plays. He did a lot. He did a lot of stuff in Europe. He's still around here. He was the Austin scene. He did stuff with Buck Henderson. But those that knew from the 80s or the 70s, the song Up Against the Wall, Dirty Redneck Mother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he did that song. And so I did him live at Dallas Palace. And
fun!
That was on several, stations of the public access. That was, some of the suburban ones around Dallas. I think it was Dallas, and I think it's played in Austin. It's so long ago, I can't quite remember. I did a chamber, or I did a chamber for the chamber, and I did a business magazine show. That one went so well that the commercial channel took it away from me. And I got so mad. They told me I could come work on it and get paid. I got so mad that they took my show, and I said, screw you.
How does that even happen? I didn't realize that they could just do that to you. How did that even happen?
Because it was Warner Amex at the time, and they owned the cable, so they owned the public access.
I see.
And but that was like before people were doing those kind of shows.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that. I almost did the very first country and western music video.
Oh wow!
Ray Wiley Hubbard and I discussed it. We already knew which song. He was in the process of doing a new recording contract here in the U.S., and he wanted to do it with a song that would be on that album back then. Instead, he ended up with a European contract, so we just never did it. But if we had, it would have been the very first country and western music video.
How cool is that? I mean, God, I remember that too back in the 80s. That's when all the music videos, really just first started and became, a thing, a really popular thing. And
yeah, when MTV was music.
Yeah. So crazy. God, Martha, none of this was really under your bio that I saw. And probably a lot of people don't realize that you have such a strong background, and that this is sort of how you, they know you have a strong background, but they may not realize that this is how you sort of got started, with everything.
Really, I got started when I was 18 years old in Memphis. I started shooting, 35 millimeter, but for the promoter that was out there, Mid-South, I think it's Mid-South Promotions. They're still out there. But I spent a year before I moved to Texas. I moved here at 19, shooting all the rock concerts that came through. So I had the, full access backstage passes. I was, David Bowie, Frank Zappa, you name it. And a lot of British bands that came, and I would shoot those, and then we would go to the bar afterwards, and then go back to the hotel after that, and I'd sit there and just kind of watch everybody, and that's when I should have been taking pictures. Was after, after
should have been, yeah.
But I did that for a whole year. Frank Zappa rode in my car, because I had the nicest car. That was the very first concert that the promoter did, and they took off to the bar afterwards, and they left him at the convention center.
Wow.
That's
awesome.
He rode in my car. I had a 69 Thunderbird with this. Yeah.
Crazy. That is crazy. God, yeah, Frank Zappa. That's cool.
Yeah, and I won every race I ran in that car, too.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. That's pretty neat. God, can you imagine if you had pictures of all that stuff? I mean, you could have made a fortune selling that stuff on eBay now, you know?
Oh, I know. And the only pictures that I have, and they're really old and faded because they're so old, and the prints were so small back then. There were a few color ones that I have that the film, when I was shooting pictures of Frank Zappa in his dressing room, that film broke off in the camera, so I took it out and handled it myself. I used everybody that I did. I would hand the film over to another guy. I don't even know how I got involved in doing this, but he would go have it developed, and before I knew it, and I was 18, so I didn't know a lot. He stole everything, and he didn't even know how to load film in the camera. He stole everything, and he went around town trying to get jobs, and he was on the radio, and he did all this stuff, counting my work as his. I have one black and white photo, and actually, if you go to
that, I bet a lot of people would love to see. Tell them your website again, Martha, to make sure that they all got it.
Mardeck, MARDECK.com.
Yeah, I bet a lot of people would love to see that. Yeah, very cool.
They just need to search Frank Zappa in the article, and the one black and white photo that I have.
Girl, you're a hustler. You've done all kinds of shit. I mean, you must have been. You have though. You've had your hands. I mean, a little bit in this, a little bit in that, and you had to really hustle to be doing all that kind of stuff. And people must have had a really good time working with you too, because in that industry, and I did a little work in the acting industry as well. And to stay in that industry like that and to be working closely with those people, especially, back then, people really liked you, They were having a good time working with you if you were hanging around all the time, that's for sure.
And I can remember one of the wildest times was a British band called Procol Harum. Mm-hmm. And they were in the Winnebago, and we ended up in the Winnebago. Then I had another friend that had a little Porsche, and the game they were playing was all the band, and everybody was in the, we were in the Winnebago, and the friend of mine was in the Porsche, and the guy driving the Winnebago was trying to stay so close on the other guy's tail so that he couldn't even see the car. And they're like driving down half on the sidewalk, half in downtown Memphis.
And I know downtown Memphis, so I could just picture it.
Yeah.
Wow. That's hilarious. That's great. That's great. Oh, you were having a good time, that's for sure.
Oh, I was. And then there was another British band called Slade that when we went, because they all went to the same bar. They always went to the same one. So we go in there, and they have a live band, but then, of course, the band takes their break. And I was really kind of shy back then.
Yeah. What? Wait. No.
Yeah.
No
I
way.
Was, unless you really knew me, I was pretty shy. I just love sitting back and watching people. But we're in the restaurant, and one of the guys for Slade asked me to dance. And I go, okay. Then I realized that the band, nobody's dancing, the band's not playing, so I'm like, maybe later. And their manager looked at me, he goes, if he asks you to dance, you dance. And I look at them, I go, not if I don't want to. You can't tell me what to do. And
that's great.
It's like, who do you think you are,
Right. I mean, they can only push you so far, but yeah, they all have a pretty big ego, don't they? They can definitely get like that. They think, they can just tell you to jump and how high, but, you weren't necessarily there to be a groupie.
Well, that's it. In fact, that's kind of when I quit going and doing this stuff. When I started, I was the only female backstage, and that was Frank Zappa was the first concert for the promoters. So the only people back there were people that were working, and within the year there were so many people there. If you're a female, they just automatically assumed you were a groupie. And it's like,
right, absolutely.
I'm the photographer, and then I ended up moving down here. My folks were already down here, and I moved to Dallas. But
okay, yeah. Well, Dallas is cool. There's tons of stuff to do over there too. God, Martha, how did you get from doing, television producing and, doing, almost like a talk show back then? There was no such thing as reality television or reality shows. You were, talk shows were early reality. Talking about child seats, that was early reality shows. There was no such thing, So, it wasn't back in, the 80s. Going from that, music videos, and then, traveling, kind of with the band, how did you go from all that to get involved with the paranormal field? How did all this happen?
Oh, this happened since I was young. I was always interested because I had some weird things happening to me. And one of my close friends back in high school, we both had odd things happening to us, and she was, like my first roommate, and we were interested. Things would happen, and we had no mentors. We didn't have anybody to really talk to about it, and as things would seem to get active around us, we would try to just kind of shut it down.
Right.
Because all we knew was that it could be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. As a teen and like a preteen and about them. And when I was getting out of high school, there was one university in the United States that offered you that you could go to be a parapsychologist. And I really wanted to do that. Obviously, it didn't happen, but that was really my choice back then.
Oh yeah, let's face it. Even back in the 80s, when I was looking for books to read, there really wasn't. You could get Edgar Casey, but there wasn't really a lot of information out there. There was occult books, which of course I read plenty. There was occult books and some witchy books and some kind of quantum physics and sort of philosophy information. But it was hard, to get the kind of information that you were looking for back then. It wasn't the plethora of information that we have now, that's for sure. And you really
it was really difficult.
It was, and we didn't have people to sort of be inspired by, at that time. And I never would have thought back then that you would be doing any kind of work even in the paranormal field. Back then, that wouldn't have even occurred to me at that time.
No. When I found out, and I can't remember which university it was, I think it was somewhere in the Midwest or something, but it's a well-known university, and that's all I can remember. And I was like, I could never get the nerve up to tell my parents, this is where I want to go, and this is what I want to study, because they probably would have laughed at me.
They would have. Not only would they have, they just wouldn't have taken you seriously.
No.
Yeah.
But I think it was privileged, but the art college is very well known now, it seems, and I wanted to go to that. And then I had to do a portfolio, and I would have done it with my photography because I'd actually been taking pictures since I was 5 years old with photography, and that was my first camera. And
oh wow!
she wouldn't mind, they wouldn't even discuss that. And it wasn't until, it's been quite a few years now, it wasn't until I had a picture that was used on the cover of Southwestern Bell phone book.
Oh, really?
Back in the 90s, I think. Yeah. They go, oh, maybe I made a mistake. I should have listened more. But, yeah, there was a stock agency that handled all my stock for years and years and years. And it would be nice to get one phone book cover a month. That would be really decent pay. So,
yeah, back then I can imagine it probably was, and, it's just a more difficult type of a field, than it is now. So, all right, so you started off doing a little photography, and so when did you start writing books? When did that whole idea just even occur to you? How did you become inspired to become an author?
Well, I worked for years as a journalist, and
right.
so I'm, so I was used to writing as a journalist. I was used to writing reports as for the police department, and I have all these book ideas. I actually have a fiction series in my head, and
wow.
So I've got a couple of them now, really, but I know which one I'm going to start when I may do a couple more nonfictions and get started on the other one. But it's about some old ladies and paranormal profiling.
Well, I mean, I think that's great because, I mean, that is what you know best, from working with, the police department. And let's face it, not everybody, clearly, like I was saying before, like, I know a thing or two about science, but I'm not as scientifically minded as some. Yeah, I come from it from a different viewpoint. I've grown up as someone who was a psychic child, from a family with that type of background. I became a seeker because of things that happened to me, that way.
Wow.
So, and I don't have any kind of, law enforcement background. So I don't know as much, about things of that nature. So that's fascinating, paranormal profiling and picking up on those kind of details. It makes for a fantastic read. Of course.
Well, and the book came about, of course, I was inspired by one of my closest friends now, T.L. Jones, Terry Jones, and she used to, when I was in law enforcement out here, she was in law enforcement out here, and we backed each other up a few times on some different, cases. And then when Terry started writing her Jaded Vision series, and then she's the one that wrote Dark Gift, but when she started her Jade, it's like, I got to get busy, She was one of my big, my big writing coaches, get yourself in gear, get moving. She was, Maria Santos, a couple other friends of mine, really helped, but Terry was, really a good inspiration. And then doing the radio shows, and then speaking at all the different conferences that I've been to, I'm always talking about the subject. And that's kind of where the book came out, because I was actually working on the nonfiction, on the fiction, one of the fiction series, and then I decided to, just was on, it's like, well, duh, write a book about it. And so I just started writing the book.
So did you find that the book was difficult for you to write, or did it just was it just inside of you, did it just flow out?
Yeah, well, that was easy. I think for me, nonfiction is really easy to write because I've been writing nonfiction, in one form or another. Well, no, actually the journalism wasn't nonfiction. Well, yeah, it was nonfiction, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it would be, sure.
Yeah. So I've been writing like that for so many years. And in fact, probably one of my neatest stories, I won an Associated Press first place award on.
Oh, tell us that story. I'm sure everybody would like to hear it. Yeah.
That was a story that it was first place for specialty reporting, but it was an investigative piece I did that I actually worked for a year on. I was working for one of the community papers out here, and when you do that, you usually are covering a lot of different things. I may cover, done that like maybe 5 or 6 cities, several different counties, water board, school board, just the whole myriad of things. But they had me on this one town, Sundown City, and one city administrator they had. They had like the perfect storm. They had 3 kind of crazy council people and a totally crazy city administrator. They came together, and everywhere that city administrator had been, he had just totally messed up everything, and then he turned around and sued the city. So we knew that he was going to turn around and sue this city once they got, like, within a year, they got some new council people elected, so those 3 weren't majority anymore. And we also knew he was going to sue the paper. So I had a lot of documentation, but he did things like took a gallon jar, like a pickle jar, and fill it full of gasoline, and then wrapped duct tape around it with nails, and put one of those really long fuses like you would use for professional fireworks. On the end of it, sticks it under his van, and so he's like the pickle bomb guy, and they called it in like somebody was trying to do him in. There was stuff going on between him and the mayor, and of course with it being Gun Barrel City, and then, things were on the news all over the world. The mayor went, and I don't know if the mayor suspended him or there was something going on, and the mayor didn't have a key to his office because the city administrator had changed the lock on his office, and the mayor had, keys to everything. So with the media there and everything, he kicked in the city administrator's door, and that's all over the news, Gun Barrel City. But what was interesting was when I first started covering it, I was just covering your normal city council meeting, and and I just put stuff that's going on in the article. And the next month, when they had the next meeting, that's when you kind of hear about the power of the pen and everything. And the city council was packed. Not only was it packed, but you had ABC, NBC, CBS. You had all these different stations there because they all monitor the community newspapers. And Dallas is like the number one in the country as far as the news media goes. Most of the people that are there end up going. A lot of them are national and have been. Staying
absolutely.
They're national.
Oh, yeah, they get picked up a lot.
So once that article I wrote was out there, the first one, there's all these people there, on the morning news, and I had done stuff, as far as photographs, I'd done stuff for the morning news and Dallas Times Herald, because I did a lot of freelance stuff for my career too. But, they're all there all the time, and so it's all about him, and it took me a year to write the story because I was, compiling all this data, and I got all this information, and there just wasn't a right time until he sued the city for the story to really come together. And, once he filed that lawsuit was identical to the one he had filed in Lamar, when he was in Lamar, Texas. He was suing the city, and he comes into the city council meeting on a gurney.
Wow. Yeah.
And the council people, when he was there over in Gun Barrel, they wouldn't let people talk, or they had always been able to talk to the council or interact while they were discussing different, agenda items. The people come in, and they're throwing tea bags at the council. This was way before the
Oh, my gosh.
They're throwing tea bags. These are all senior citizens, too. and there's militia around in East Texas. There were some militia people that were coming in to the council meetings to make sure they were being, run properly. You had to take the rangers there. You had deputies there. So anyway, so that's what my story was all about.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, they get a little crazy over there. We know, don't mess with Texas. We know.
Especially in Texas.
Well, anywhere in Texas. We know that's right. For sure.
He was wild and crazy. He tried to get us for me, and then there was Carol Countryman was a freelancer, and we would run around a lot together. And we would follow him in his little car because he'd go try to have secret meetings, and he tried to get us for that. He took all the chairs out of City Hall and tried to get us for like loitering or something. But it's a city building, and in Texas, you can be in a city building all day long if you want, as long as you're not, disrupting
Yeah. Well, don't cause trouble. Why not?
I was like a bulldog,
I think it's great.
I had a blast, yeah.
So, all right, so you were in good practice. You're in good practice then to start your book. So how many books do you have now?
Well, I just got that one out, and then I have that one out, and I'm working just about ready, a couple of months should go to press with the historical and haunted Highway 80.
Well, let's tell everybody a little bit about your first book, your paranormal profiler book, and let's talk about that, and what that's all about, and where they can buy it, and maybe what your favorite story is from the book.
Okay, well, the book is, I ended up going with the paranormal profiling because it's pretty much a how-to interview book. It's a good book for somebody who doesn't really have any interview experience.
Okay.
And it's all done with a paranormal twist, so that if you're interviewing a potential client or witnesses, it kind of helps you learn what to ask, but what to look for too. How to read that person. If they're doing this, it may mean this. It goes into all of that stuff. Stuff that I use, as a detective when I'm was interviewing or interrogating somebody. We talk about body language. We talk about distance, to people when you're talking to them, and I ended up doing that because there were people that I have talked to, the ones that want to go into do private investigations with homes and with businesses, and they would get the calls from the client, and whatever the client says, they automatically believe right off the bat. If they say it must be so, it's kind of like the internet. Everything's true, and So they go into so they don't do an in-depth interview. They talk to them on the phone. They run over there to do an investigation. But the investigation is they go in the mindset that they're going in to prove what the client tells them.
That's so true, Martha. And I like what you said also too about the body language. Like a lot of people who have never interviewed anyone before. I've done a lot of interviews professionally as well as just with my career, which we don't have to get into that, but professionally as well as, with the paranormal, I have a lot of experience interviewing and questioning people, just not with law enforcement, and I'm great with, reading body language, but people don't know how to do that. They don't know how close they should sit to someone. They don't know how to read body language or mannerisms or maintain eye contact or read into, how a person is looking at them or looking away from them, or, you know what I mean? Or they don't know how to listen to what the person isn't saying with their answers, so to speak. So I think that's a much-needed book. And really it's not addressed with, there are other people who sort of put out how-to-go type books, but they don't, they give you a list of questions, but they don't explain any of that. At least none of the other books that I have seen, they don't explain any of that. So that's really cool that you did that. Now, in the book, are you also giving recommendations on, the equipment that they should use as well?
No, not so much.
Okay.
Well, I do for the interviews because it's a book more about interviewing somebody than doing an investigation.
Okay.
I touched lightly on investigations. I touched, and I put some stories of some different investigations that we've done or phone calls we've had with people in the book. There is a list of questions in the book, and if somebody wants to really get into a lot of detail forensically on an investigation, I have a humongous list in there of what they could use, which I got from David Roundtree. And I did, so I mentioned his book because he has a good book to read too on doing your investigations on things to look for. And so, that's in there along with his list of, more stuff than we ever had in our police department. But it gives you an idea, and it kind of gets you thinking about different things you can do because, not everybody that you talk to or interview that claims they have problems is telling you the truth. Probably the most important things I think that I tell people and that I put in the book is safety. If you're going into somebody's house, don't go alone. Two of you go. Never go alone because you're going into their house. You don't know anything about that person. And we have encountered people that are mentally unstable. And, so you don't know. I talk about how to build rapport with somebody because sometimes they don't tell you everything. And it may not be that they're trying to be deceitful. They're just embarrassed or they're ashamed of something. And it's important to build trust and confidence and then to keep that and let them know that you think they're important, that they're not wasting your time. I talk about, once you get there, don't sit there and keep checking your phone or sending text messages or answer, set that aside because when you're doing that, you're telling that person that they're not important, that they're wasting your time. They're wasting your time, and then they shut down. And you're trying to get them to open up. Yeah. And other things are, and just because somebody maybe does have a mental problem, maybe they're schizophrenic, maybe they're bipolar, that doesn't mean what they're experiencing is not real. But some of the, because it works both ways. I mean, that may be why they're experiencing what they say they are experiencing because it goes along with being a schizophrenic, but it may not. If you're talking to somebody like that, some important questions would be to ask them, do they hear voices? Do they, are they hearing them now? What do the voices say? I went with the last job that I had as a special investigator with the state. I went in with a caseworker to a house, and as we go into the house, if there were serious cases of different abuse or gangs, weapons, things like that, there were things like that I helped investigate and assist with. But as we go into this apartment, I noticed that there is this huge pot, like a pot to do canning. It's on the stove, and there's water boiling, but there's nothing around it. There's no food. There's nothing like for cooking something. It's just a big pot of boiling water. And the reason we were there because of the person in their mental state and the child they had. And so as they're asking questions, I'm there to try to help mentor and give them, the workers, some social worker, some other questions to ask when they get into the medical part and the mental part. She's schizophrenic, and then she just goes on to another question. Well, I go back and I ask those magical questions. Do you hear voices? Yes. Do you hear them now? You hear them now? Yes. Well, what did they tell you to do? And the voices had told her to boil the water and to pour it on herself.
Oh, my God.
And when they go, when the person I was with went in, she saw the water, but I picked up on the fact that there's no cooking anything around there. It's just a pot by itself. And so part of it is learning how to see what you're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, she needed help, but not the kind that you guys were going to be able to give her, for sure.
Right. One of our one of our strangest investigations that we did as a team with these Texas Paranormal. When we leave the house, our suggestion to them, because we try to do follow-up, aftercare type things, whatever they need, try to, don't just run do an investigation and never hear from us again, but solve the problem. And this is one where the problem would be solved when we told them they needed to go to marriage counseling. That's what they needed.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's for sure. That can be a factor.
Yeah,
that can definitely be a factor.
Yeah, I know there's a little more to that story, but that was the ultimate thing: is don't fight in the house. Go get marriage counseling if you want to stay together, and start getting rid of that negative energy that you've helped build up in your house.
Yeah, well, and definitely, fighting all of the time. Jason and I touched on this in another with a different guest that we had on the show. We were just talking about this, actually, I think, yesterday's show. If you walk in as an investigator and their house looks like an episode of Hoarders, there might be something to that. Any kind of a chaotic atmosphere, filthy, chaotic atmosphere might be breeding, some sort of trouble there. So, all that fighting, can attract negativity. All of that hoarding can attract negativity as well. I was saying, I used to tell my daughter when she was a kid and her room was a disaster that, there were trolls, living in her closet because she was, inviting them in with that mess. And it would, that would make her nervous. But, it sounds like a great book. It sounds like a lot of people need this book. A ton of people could use this kind of advice. And so how much is the book, and where can they find it?
So they can get the book. They can go to Amazon. They can go to Barnes and Noble. They can, just do a search for paranormal profiling, like on Google, and they'll give you some other sites where you can get the book. You can contact, and the book varies because the stories are different. If you go to, and they're both in ebook and Kindle, Nook, different versions like that. There's another site that I think that you can go to. I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember what the name of the link is.
Okay.
Where you can get it as well. And I can't remember what that one is.
Okay. It's in Barnes and Noble, right? Yeah.
Yeah. You can do that. You can contact me. And, if you want a signed version.
There you go.
You can get one from me for $15. But I think $2 for $17 for the $2 shipping, or you just pay me through PayPal, or I can take credit cards too, and you can get a signed copy that way.
That's awesome. I love to get autographed copies of books for my collection. That's always, to me, that's always a great way to go. So let me ask you, who are you inspired? Like, who, as an author, who are you inspired by? Like, other authors that inspired you? Whose writing inspires you?
Oh, goodness. Well, I told you about T.L. Jones.
Yeah.
And I told you about Terry. I like reading. I read, and I have quite a few books by Rosemary Ellen Diley. Troy Taylor's books are really good. These are all like reference books, but I like, of course, Stephen King and Tony Hillerman, Jay Jans. There's a whole bunch of them that I like reading. I like to read Dr. Rita Louise's book. It was Rosemary Ellen Diley that really got me thinking about Jen instead of ghosts, because I've done a couple of on Examiner.com as Dallas Paranormal, and I've reviewed her 2 books on Jen. The Vengeful Jen was her first one, and I forget the second one, but she has a lot of stuff about Jen and she had started, I think this last year, and I haven't checked lately, where they were doing some she was going out with a group, and they were doing some investigations to see if it was gin or if it was, or if it was ghostly in nature. And,
right.
Which was really fascinating when I started reading about the gin, and then like Dr. Rita Louise, I read her book Man-Made, and she goes into a lot of the ancient, aliens and different things like that. But that book, she took a lot of religious texts that go way, way back, all the different religious texts, and would bring in how they were all so similar, and they were so different as far as religions go, but yet the stories are so similar. So those are the kind of people that when it comes to nonfiction, but when it comes to fiction, I love Carrie's books and people like Tony Hillerman, Jay Jance, and that's kind of similar in my mind with those theories I had in my head, kind of going along the way they write, similar to that.
Cool.
So
what are you reading? Are you reading anything now?
Not right now.
All right.
I'm trying to think because I had to stop.
It's not a trick question. I'm just checking.
Well, yeah, actually I am. I'm reading one called Weird Texas.
Oh, okay. There you go. Well, that's a good one.
Yeah, about all the weird and odd things that go around. Places to go check out in Texas.
What's going bump in the night over there in Texas? There you go.
Exactly.
What's like the coolest place you ever investigated? What's the most memorable place you ever investigated? What really stuck with you? It's like creepy.
Probably a hospital up in northeast Texas. I was there several times. We've been there several times, and really to do a good investigation, you need to be there more than once. And that place was pretty active. Every time we went there, each time we went, we would see more and more. We got some pretty good EVPs on the last trip, which was maybe 2 years ago, year and a half, 2 years ago.
Okay.
So we picked, so we talked to, I talked to several different psychics, one from the town, one that was in Washington, and then somebody with us, and everybody was had pretty much the same stories about different things, and that was where I was seeing shadow figures while we were there last time. There's a particular area that I can kind of tell if something's there. I can just, I can feel the atmosphere, the air, whatever. I can feel when it's there. I can feel, you get that feeling like, don't go back in that corner. The hair stands up, not just the goosebumps, but the hair stands up on the back of your neck. Of course, that's what, got me through all those years in law enforcement, too. And, so we had that up there, and I have some, there's possibly some interesting stories about things over there. I had, there was there's one wing that, in this hospital, they used to do Halloween, they fix it all up, haunted house for Halloween, give money to the fire department. And I was up there during, that time period several times. And while they were doing that, the police would patrol it, and they would turn the alarms on when everybody was gone, and they would do a perimeter check. And sometimes they would see this blonde down this one hall. And they would, check in with dispatch, and they check with the people, are you sure everybody's home? Because the officers would see somebody. Then I was talking to my psychic friend in Washington, and she starts telling me about the building, and she starts telling me about this blonde that's in some wing, and she says, she's kind of goofy, she's kind of loony. I don't know what it is, but she's afraid of the guys upstairs, and if you ask her if she wants to go upstairs with you, she will probably say no. but she just, I don't know, she's just kind of goofy. You know, she just kind of learned it. She kept using those words. Well, I had forgotten until I got there that she was talking about the lady in the psych ward.
Oh.
And I did ask that question, you know, do you want to go upstairs with us? Because there's supposed to be some guys upstairs, and three psychics that said the same thing independently. You know, like one that goes in there a lot because she's from the town. That they, you know, they died while they were there, and they're mad because they died. And it's kind of like the one that lives in town is there, and she would oversee the Halloween thing. It's like, y'all stay over there, and I won't bother you. You don't bother me. We'll just kind of, you know, agree to just stay away from each other. And something had happened that year, and the guys started roaming where they had stayed upstairs. And so this lady was afraid of them. And so I asked, you know, when we were doing the EVP session, do you want to go upstairs? And you can hear, and I was told by my friend in Washington, you're going to have to listen because it's going to be very soft because she's not very strong. And you hear, I mean, it's plain to say, but it's very soft. You hear a female voice say no when I ask if she wants to go upstairs with us.
Excellent. Hey,
Wow.
Martha, what do you think causes shadow people? I know there's a lot of theories behind it. What theory stands out in your head that causes a shadow person?
I really have no idea. I mean, there are so many theories, and I don't know, you know, I don't know. I just know that it's like, you know, a solid shadow person. I mean, sometimes you see something out of the corner of your eye, but it's not necessarily that solid. And, you know, there could be medical reasons for that because when you look certain ways, you know, your eyes do certain things and cause you to see things that aren't there. And that's just normal in everybody. But
I think you may be onto something. I agree. I know a lot of people, well, not a lot, but there are some that suggest that, you know, there's some kind of evil being. Needless to say, I've captured my share of shadow people on film, and I've witnessed a lot of shadow people, and none of those pieces of evidence suggest anything evil at all. So I don't. It's not evil. Can it be evil? I don't see a reason why it can't be evil, but I don't necessarily think they're all evil. But you may be onto something. I mean, if you stare at something long enough and you kind of stray your eye away from it, yeah, you see a highlight or some kind of shadow-like substance in your eye. It just gets embedded for a period of time. Maybe that's what people are witnessing most of the time. Who knows?
Well, you know, and it could be, and there's actually a medical term for it, but I don't remember what it is.
Right.
But, no, because when I was in the hospital and what I saw was more like the doctors. Maybe some doctors are still there is what I was getting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I kind of got that. I don't know.
Just a feeling, yeah.
Yeah, just a feeling, you know. I mean, there wasn't anything other than they were maybe going into, like, the doctor's lounge or going into an emergency room. Maybe, you know, that's when we were in the hospital. But I can tell you about a shadow person I saw when I was 19, 2 nights in a row, and I was wide awake. And I had no answer as to what it was. I had moved to Dallas from Memphis. I was at my folks' house and moved into my apartment yet. And I'm in a room, you know, in bed. I was in bed and I woke up. And there were 2 twin beds in this room. And one of them was right at the door facing the hall. And I woke up for whatever reason, and I watched this very tall, dark, solid, you know, shadow walk into the room. And the best way to describe it would be like a druid type, what we would picture as a druid with the you know, with the outfit and everything. Coming in was probably the best description, you know, tall, but where the face would be, it was even darker than the shadow person. And, of course, that's on our face, but it walked into the room, looked at me, I looked at it, and then it would turn around and sit on the edge of that other bed, and then watch the hall. This happened 2 nights in a row, and I was awake both times. I never felt fear for, you know, I wasn't afraid of it. You know, I didn't get any kind of, you know, nothing, you know, I never got an, oh, this is evil. I just thought it was interesting, and I got more of the feeling like it it was maybe protecting, or, you know, it was waiting for something, watching for something, you know, and I have no idea what that was. I don't know what caused it. You know, it was there and then it wasn't there. You know, I don't know. So maybe someday I'll know the answer to that event. But that's the
maybe.
There's a lot of strange events that happen that people don't know the answer to.
Yeah.
What kind of personal research do you particularly like to engage in? Is there anything specific, a specific theory out there that, you know, you've been trying to collect evidence to support in any way?
Well, nothing specific. I'm interested in science, but I'm not a scientist. I like to read, I like to read. I like to listen to people talk about different theories. And it can get fairly technical, and I can get a good grasp of it. And I just kind of soak all that in and keep that back in the back of my mind. So when I'm out there doing an investigation or something, well, maybe it just adds to my possibility of, could this be causing that? Could it be this? Maybe if we try that and go from there. For example, when everybody started doing the flashlight thing, when those centers were doing it, and of course that doesn't work when you have those twist ones. But then my mind was like, well, what about the ones where you flip a switch off or on, push a button off or on, and it works like that? And, so a lot of times back then, I talked to David Roundtree about a lot of this stuff because, he just knows a lot about that kind of stuff. And he's one of the many people that I talked to. And so we came up with where I would go and put like maybe 6 different kind of flashlights out there, and none of them do you twist to turn them off or on, so you can get no arcing or anything in there. It's either on or if it's off or off. And we would have them on, and we would ask questions, do an EVP session, and the flashlights would get like brighter than they normally are, or they would turn off or get dimmer. And different ones would do it. Sometimes multiple ones would do it. And, so what's causing that, I don't know, but I just know that I was able to get reactions to different lights, like I was interacting with something. I don't know what I was interacting with, but you start asking questions, almost like if you're working with dowsing rods or something, are you male, are you female, or are you a child, are you an adult, different things, that, the yes-no type things.
Yeah.
I think the flashlights, like, in just my opinion, it doesn't do anything major except turn it into a geophone, I guess you can say. And that's all it's doing is just picking up vibration. It's making it sensitive to the point where, slightest movement is going to turn it on.
You guys still do that?
That's a geophone.
I don't know. I don't do it anymore, really.
No, you see, I've never done it with the ones that you twist because they can arc, and when it arcs, it can do all that. So I've never used those, and I haven't done that in probably about a year. I haven't done that. But as I hear different things like you're talking about, I try to go out and do some of that stuff myself. I'm not the type where I can go out and build something, and I can't do I'm the one that would get fired from our IKEA because I couldn't put it together with the directions. But I watch a lot of YouTube videos and how to, and it just helps keep me educated. You've got to keep learning. There's so many things to learn that I don't think you really ever know everything.
Oh, I agree. You never really do. I mean, we can all learn so many new things from each other in this field, God, all the time. There's always something new, seems like.
Well, it is. That's why I've always thought it's good, if different team members, different paranormal people, if you can go out with different teams every now and then, just to watch how they do things, and then you bring that back to your team, that helps your team grow. And you'll see different things that you don't do, and maybe you don't want to do that. It's like, oh, when you're ever going to do that? Or, hey, they did this. This was kind of interesting, and then so you go try it with your team. and I know there's some teams that are very territorial in different places, and I don't know, that I don't understand at all. But they
I
are.
get that one bit. I think it's just a bunch of ignorant, self-conscious, popularity wannabe assholes that are like,
yeah, there's a lot of those. Yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh, I know. It's like, I heard you were in our territory and you didn't contact us first.
Right? Right?
Yeah.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Right? It's like I'm going to, YouTube show. We're going up to Oklahoma soon and to start shooting for that. And so I'm trying to find some things going on in Oklahoma, that are, not, I don't want to go places where everybody else has been. It can be paranormal, it can be criminal, it can be, a myriad of, different things. We're open to all of that. But we want to find things that your average, that people don't really know about or hadn't heard about, or it happened so long ago, everybody forgot about it. But I'm not, I don't feel like I need permission from anybody to go up there and do that.
I don't think any of us should ever feel like that. That just pisses me off. Whenever there's any kind of bullshit like that goes on, I love it when you're in some place investigating and there's some asshole in their car that is from a group that lives close by, and you're 2 hours away from home, and they're literally driving by and driving back by and driving by again to see what the hell you're doing. Like, what bullshit is that? It's insane. It's insane. It's none of their business what you're doing, and you can't own a location or a client. It's tough.
Right. Now I do have people that call me and they say, "Well, I've talked to every paranormal team, and I can't get anybody." Or I've had. Right. So my question usually to them is, and that's where I will contact other teams, because who's been over there? What did they do? Then I'm going to call the teams and go, hey, what's going on over there? Do a little research, because if everybody else has been there or they're already working with another team, I am not going to go over there.
Well, or sometimes, you get a call, and it's because they've had other teams over, and they really felt like it didn't help, that they're looking for someone different to come in. Well, then what do you do,
Well, right, but then sometimes they're just doctor shopping.
No, that can be true, too.
They're just looking for a team that's going to, agree with them. But sometimes the other team is actively working with them. And, and I'm not going to go over there and actively work with them, too. I'll probably contact that team, because I'll probably know who it is.
Right.
And I'll probably have them in my, I already have their number, and I'll call them and I go, well, what's going up with them, because they called me. And, but then but that's why I asked them what teams, because there may be somebody once I know who it is, you understand, because it may have been somebody who truly wasn't professional, because, you have some of those teams, all they want to do is go out there and try to get get some EVPs or get some pictures, and then the family never hears from them, or if there was some activity, maybe they leave the family in worse shape than when they got there, and so you end up going and cleaning up somebody else's mess. Because we've done that before.
Oh, sure.
And that's why, another thing I talk about is liability and the possibility of being sued. They need to understand that, if you go in there and, if we really think somebody, has a mental problem, and maybe they haven't been diagnosed yet, but after talking to them and I feel like that, we usually will tell them that if there's a potential for a serious case there, we'll tell them that before we can investigate, they need to go get a physical and a mental evaluation before we go in there, because we're not going to go in and leave somebody in worse shape than when we got there.
I agree. And I've been on many residential cases where I had to, fix some other stupid fucking team's problem. You know, they go in, they fuck up the whole investigation. They take the client out, and then, the client's got to call me up. And then, that pisses me off to no end. If you're gonna do residential cases, please treat that residential case like it's your mom.
Exactly. Exactly. We had one that a lady called me up, and she was seeing demons everywhere, only when she took pictures with her phone. And so of course, my thing, and then she told me about some other things, and they were red flags because of all the, all the training I had, and there may be some, other problems too. There may be some mental problems, and so I'm talking to her, and I'm going through the thing, send me some pictures. And when I saw the pictures, I knew exactly that, there were demons everywhere. Demons on her bed, demons on the wall, demons on the refrigerator. I mean, everything she took pictures of, but she was taking pictures of things with texture or wrinkles, and, in your mind, you're going to see, you can see things, just like when you look at the clouds. So I had already told her that she needed to go for an evaluation. She had insurance, and go ahead and go check and let me know what let us know, what the doctor says, kind of thing, if you're, whatever. And in the meantime, after I had already told her that, I get a call from her daughter, who's an adult. Actually, I got to meet, anyway, I was contacted by the daughter, and the daughter, didn't know us from anybody. She didn't know if we were just, some crackpots or not. And she was asking us to be gentle on her mother, that her mother had just been seriously ill, just had lost her job, had like about a half a dozen major traumatic events in the last few months happen to her. Lost her house, just moved an apartment, and that she was kind of in a fragile state, and they had been trying to get her to go for an evaluation. So it's like, please be easy on my mother, don't mess with her, and jerk her along or anything. And I told her, I said, don't worry, we're not both that kind of, we're not like that. And, by the way, I've already recommended that your mother go to see the doctor. And she did. She went on our recommendation, and she found the doctors found some physical problems that she didn't know she had, and there was some mental, and once he got all of that under control, no more demons.
Wow.
And, and if we hadn't been, at the time, the majority of people on the team, we were all law enforcement. All of us, I think, but one were in law enforcement at the time. And we still have about half of us or so are current or former law enforcement on the team. But, if it had been a young, inexperienced team that just went in there, who knows what, the outcome could have been.
Excellent.
So,
excellent.
So, you just...
One message is coming in. Hey, Jodi?
Yes.
Did Twister offend you?
No.
All right.
No, not at all.
I got a message from Denny saying, Twister is sorry, he thinks he offended you, and I said, he's talking about the way about it.
No, he's just Twister being Twister.
That's it. Twister's cool.
No. Aw, poor Twister. He's worried that he offended me. No, I'll tell him next time. I think he left the chat room, or I said goodnight to him. He left the chat room already. Huh? He already hopped out of the chat room, but no, absolutely not. Next time he's in there, I'll be sure and mention that to him.
I hope he's in there.
Yeah, I know he will.
It's all good.
No, it's totally all good. It's fine. Poor guy.
He's all right. I love him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I love him. He's a good guy.
Yeah. All right, so we can continue now.
Yeah.
We can continue. So, Martha, have you ever lived outside of Texas?
Well, yeah, since I was born in Detroit.
Yeah, that's right. I'm all fucked up.
I grew up in Memphis and lived outside New Orleans. Yep.
I'm all messed up.
She's that girl. She's been around. She gets around. She's been around.
Yeah. In your experiences, what states have been proved to be more notorious haunted than others? What do you think are the top states to go check out?
Well, Texas could be one because it's so daggum big.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, it's just so big. But New Orleans, of course, would be Louisiana. There's a lot of stuff going on in Illinois.
Really? I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of stuff in Illinois. You get down in Decatur. Decatur, almost the whole town is built on top of cemeteries. They keep moving people and even to this day. They go dig for a house or a street or something, and they'll find bones. Alton, Illinois is probably one of the most haunted towns in Illinois. There's a lot of stuff in St. Louis, in Museum, Missouri. Some of the older cities are where in states where you're going to find things.
Nice.
Florida, I don't know. I just know that there's a lot of neighborhoods and stuff in Florida built on what were Native American grounds and sacred grounds way back when. But you even get into East Texas, you can also come into the same thing because you had the Caddo Indians in East Texas a long time ago. That was part of the stuff with the book that we're doing now. We were trying to get into the old stuff of the town of Grand Saline, because Grand Saline, Morton Salt Factory is in Grand Saline, and there's so much salt in Grand Saline, and so there's because it's all underground. There's so much salt there, and it goes so deep that I think they have enough salt, and I forget how many thousands of pounds per person in the country or in the world for like the next 20,000 years or something. And the Caddo Indians were in Grand Saline when they were around too, and other people, because the salt would just come and like leach up out of the ground. Back then they didn't even dig for it. It was just, you had like, instead of sand flats, you had salt flats in areas.
That's very interesting.
Excellent. Do you think that weather plays a factor in the amount of paranormal phenomena that people get throughout the night?
The weather is, sometimes it seems like it. All the times I work patrol out on the street, full moon, the crazies come out. So,
that's so true.
So, I mean, if you have, people talk about full moon, new moon, for activity, thunderstorms, and of course railroad tracks. We did, actually for Grand Saline, our team investigated 3 of the buildings for the city. The council wanted us to come and investigate. And the first thing we investigated was their library, which used to be the train depot. And the night we were there was a heavy, heavy thunderstorm. And the train track was like 5 feet from the building. And I swear trains were going by every 15 minutes. So, between the trains and the lightning and the thunder and the pouring rain, we really didn't get much there. There was just too much contamination with all of that. But I will tell you, one of our team members is very skeptical still, but he gets the best EVPs too. I don't know why, but he does at Sam Rep. But he came out late. We had already been there, and he had to work late. And when he came in, he parked in the parking lot where everybody else was parked, and he thought one of us had come out to the car, a car next to him before he came in, because he saw somebody come out, but he just saw the shadows and the lights and stopped by a car and stuff, and then they went on. So he goes to look, and there was nobody there. We were all inside. So that kind of, and maybe between the activity of the rain and the thunder and, seems to be a lot of activity around train tracks. You know, I've noticed that because up at Highway 80, we've got train tracks up and down in several of those cities that you know, they all have activity in East Texas all along the train track.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, what do you think is the most oddest place you ever investigated?
I don't really know if there's been an odd place. Not that I can think of. Unless you, well, I don't know, maybe you could count, hadn't really thought about it, but I used to be on the one of the fire departments, volunteer. I was a firefighter, but I was also a scuba diver. And the water out here had maybe 2 feet visibility if you're lucky. So when we're going out there looking for somebody, you know, you're not going to see them until they kind of hit you in the face. But the oddest would have been a stock pond. You know, we call them stock ponds out here on the ranches. Yeah.
Sure.
And there was one about 20 foot deep and about 10 feet down. You hit all the sediment that's in there.
Yeah, murky. Yeah.
All that mud and sediment and going down in there and trying to feel around. And but sometimes we would just miss that person. But you know, you would feel. Sometimes when you're diving and you're looking for a body, you just kind of you just get in an area that feels kind of odd and doesn't feel quite right. And then I talked to several years ago somebody who has been a commercial diver for many years, and he's even built some equipment because he was diving and he was taking pictures of some things, and as he's coming up, he was in I think a well at the time, and he just got this feeling came over him, and he happened to have a camera, and when he snapped a picture, and when he went and back and, you know, had it developed and everything, you could see this face in the water, like somebody screaming, like, you know, they're drowning or something.
Oh,
you know?
wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was, and then that kind of got him fueled, and that's where he started doing investigations underwater. He's one of the few people I know that does underwater investigations. So, you know, sometimes I get that feeling. I just didn't have my camera with me because we were out looking for bodies instead. Because I did have an underwater camera.
I've never investigated underwater yet.
Me either. In fact, I don't know anyone. That's very interesting. I don't know anyone that does underwater investigation. That's quite fascinating, actually. Do they do that often? What do they get from doing that?
Well, they do it underwater, just like you do. Just like you do above, you know, above ground. My husband did commercial diving too. He worked one of his summers in college. He worked down on the coast, on the Gulf Coast, as a salvage diver. And there was a ship that exploded, and that was in the 70s, called the VA Fog, which is now a reef. But they were trying to salvage the VA Fog, and at the time, 65 men died on it.
Right.
You know, and we have a few pieces of it from when they were trying to salvage it here. But, you know, the bodies were still there. And so if you go in and you were to die of a shipwreck, you know, people died in there. There's a blue hole in Texas that a lot of people have died in. It's a cave system that nobody can, no, not blue hole, it's Jacob's Well, I think it is. But people would go in there and try to dive, didn't know how to do cave diving. And he's gone in there to, I think he's been in there trying to, you know, to recover bodies and stuff in the past. So if you think about it, when you go into places like that underwater, or say, if you go into Arkansas, almost all of the lakes that they made in Arkansas, they left the town, the buildings, they're all underwater. Still.
Okay. Wow.
the water's very, very clear in those lakes in Arkansas. Those are some of the best. Yeah, that's some of the best diving in the country. I think is in Arkansas. Heber Springs used to be like the main place years ago. I don't know about now, but so you're going into areas where there's houses and cemeteries and churches and all the buildings, just like the town was still there. So why you should still be able to pick up stuff underwater just like you did above ground.
So they have. I wonder if are they down there where those crystal caverns are underneath the water too, where all that sort of energy is amplified?
Well, yeah, it could be. I mean, you get into the cave diving and stuff. You never know. Yeah.
And that'd be very cool. I know they have a lot of that kind of thing out that way. Yeah, God, I can only imagine that would be a whole different set of difficulty analyzing your evidence, and a whole different, just a completely different way of investigating down there. But I don't see why you couldn't investigate underwater. It just never really occurred to me to try it.
Right.
Although I dive, I just didn't even think about it. Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, it would be the same thing. So that would probably be, the place to go. So unusual is scuba dive.
What do you think about that, Jay?
I got caught up in the middle of something real quick.
That's kind of wild. That's kind of wild, that whole scuba diving, investigating. I mean, it's wild.
There's a couple of teams out there that are that scuba dive investigating, quite frequently. I can't remember the names of them, but as soon as I do, I'd definitely like to have them on the show. But
I would love it. Yeah.
I'm not sure if EVPs would come out good.
No, I don't know. I don't know how you would get them. That's what I was thinking. Like, it's a whole different set of problems to investigate like that, right? Like, just gathering and analyzing evidence is just a completely different science. Doing that.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
Yeah, because you're just looking at totally different things. In fact, the guy I was trying to think of that I talked to, his name, you can find him on Facebook, it's Lee Elrich, Ehrlich. He's the one that was a commercial diver that got the picture. And, started doing that. I mean, that's not his profession, of course, but he built equipment, designed equipment to take down there to help.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I love that kind of equipment. It seems interesting.
Yeah. I met him and listened to him talk about it, and he brought his little his toy with him to one of Troy Taylor's conferences up in Illinois several years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Mid-America conferences. Yeah, he was up there, and so I hadn't really thought about it until I talked to him. And, it just made sense because there's an awful lot of tragedies that have happened underwater.
Well, every Saturday, there's a reservoir not that far from me, probably like 9 miles or so, 10 miles, and it was a flooded reservoir. It actually supplies New York City. But it's a huge area, and underneath the water, there's actually a town. And if you fly over with a helicopter, you can still see, the tops of the houses and so forth and so on. Now, they do allow diving in there, but I've never gone in there to investigate. I think it would be pretty wild if I were to, though.
Yeah, I would think so.
Excellent. So, tell me, what kind of tips would you recommend newer investigators? And, maybe a little bit of safety, too, as well.
say the beginning of that question again. I totally missed it.
Okay. What kind of tips would you recommend any newer investigator who wants to, get into this field?
The biggest tip is don't go by yourself. Stay safe. Yeah, stay safe. Don't go by yourself. Don't interview by yourself.
Oh, definitely.
Do some investigation. When you get your information from someone, do some investigation. Try to corroborate what they're saying. Check with the neighbors, or because if you can get witnesses, the witnesses are almost like references. If it's a friend or family, they're going to be, most of the time they're going to be, on their side, and then you're going to hear, oh yeah, it was that way. But you can talk to neighbors, and without going into detail, talk to former owners. You can check newspapers. You can even go see about getting police reports to see what kind of things happen somewhere. Most places that's public information.
Yeah.
And you can get that. So those are good things to do. That's when we interview someone. We'll have a video camera, and we'll have an audio recorder to record everything. We'll go in, and when we do the interview, we don't do an investigation at the same time, but we'll go through and maybe get base readings and see about the EMF in the areas. We take photographs of the house, inside and outside, that will give us a basis for when we go back if we do an investigation. And we'll do that again in the beginning before we start the investigation, but we can go back and see if there's been any changes in anything. Those are some, good tips. But the safety tips are, don't go by yourself. Be aware that people do lie. They don't always have, they're always not up to, good and everything. Maybe they want to be on TV. Maybe they want to be on my story. Maybe they want their commercial business to be, a home attraction.
Sure.
And just to try to go in and be aware and listen and observe everything. When you have somebody start telling you what's going on, ask what happened. And just, tell me what happened. And leave it at that and let them talk. And don't interrupt them, at that time. Let them tell the story. And as you're, when you go with two people, as you're asking them questions or they're telling you the story, the other person is making notes. Once they've told their story, go back and then you ask questions like, maybe they say, I hear they cuss at me all the time. So then you go back and, what are they saying? Because cussing is different to different people.
Yeah.
Or, if you're talking to an older person, they go, it was, a youngster. Go back and go, well, what age do you think they were? And I learned that a long time ago because I answered a call once when I was on patrol and, talking to somebody in the 80s or something, and they go, there was some criminal mischief. They said, some youngsters. And I go, well, so about how old were they? Because I'm thinking, kids, teenagers, maybe early 20s at the most. But I'm thinking more teenager when they say youngster. So when I ask,
right,
they're talking about in their 50s.
Oh.
And I would never consider somebody in their 50s a youngster. But they were in their 80s. And so they're saying a youngster. So it's really important to clarify things. Be aware of your surroundings. There's people I know that have gone in to do investigations in places and people have broken into their vehicles. Some of them have been shot at because they're not in the best neighborhood. In Texas, we might be armed in some locations possibly. The people that live there, we're not there. They let the key under the the mat outside the front door for us to get in because they were supposedly, too scared to stay there. So everybody saw us bringing equipment in, and we stuck out like a sore thumb. And we were, extremely aware of listening to outside noises as well as inside noises because, somebody might want to come in here and steal our cameras or whatever they thought we might have. So we were not in a safe environment, so you really need to be aware. Something that we do, and it's really a good thing to do, if you're maybe in a location that's, not somebody's home that they live in, but it's an empty building or something, is contact local law enforcement when you get there and let them know that you're there and that you have permission, and then call them when you leave to let them know you're leaving. Tell them that you call when you're done, so that if there's anything going on after you're gone, they already know you're gone. And, that's to cover you, too, if something happens after you've left. And it also lets them know somebody's there that shouldn't be there. Maybe it's a place that people break into a lot or something. And, but that way, if they get calls from the neighborhood, that there's lights in there, there's stuff going on, they already know who's there, so you don't have somebody, showing up thinking that you're intruders and have to go through that whole rigmarole of, proving that, you had a right to be there. That's a really good safety thing. Plus, that way, if you happen to call them because something's going on, they already know you're there, and you don't have to spend time explaining all that to dispatch.
Excellent. Well, Martha, we're actually running out of time. Why don't you give out all your